name is Goldi. I'm CEO of First. We do liquidity. If you bought crypto with a credit card somewhere in the world, there's like a 50-60% chance we provided it to you. Hopefully you don't owe us money, but that's, it's all right, it's all right. Someone from the Celsius team just fell. Okay.
Hey.
Okay. Do not, remember, if you want to drink all day, you got to start in the morning. So, okay. So we're going to start by basically doing some DeFi myth busting. The original name of this panel was DeFi Financial Inclusion. I said to my fellow panelists that we either change it to DeFi, Financial Inclusion my ass, because unfortunately it still doesn't work, or we just change it to myth busting, and they said I can't say my ass on stage, so we won't be doing this panel. So I want to ask you guys, what's going to happen here is we're going to talk about what's really happening behind the scenes of DeFi. We got Daniel from Celsius. He's a great guy. He still has a smile on his face, even that he's like 3 years in crypto, and that's amazing. We got Yoni from eToro, this is basically his conference. You've been here all day on stage, right? Okay, so he's a resident on stage. We got Stani Kulechov. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Yes. He's from AvePay and Ethland, which is probably the only DeFi app on this stage, probably. The Ethland marketplace. And we've got Tomer from Libra Camp, which is basically Libra is going to come out. How are we making money out of this? And you're going to tell us about it shortly. And I want to ask you guys, there's like 500 million logged in DeFi. That's great. 52% is in Maker. Everyone is super excited. There's XDAI, RDAI, CDAI, DAI, must speak. Like, would you die already? We don't even know the difference. I want to ask you the real questions. So I hope you're prepared. I hope you all drank before a bit. Okay? So the first question is to the loan guys. I'll go with the Israeli because they're used to being blunt, and you'll hear how it sounds. And then, where the hell is our money? Like, we're giving you money, and you're taking my money, and you're giving me 50% crypto as a loan. I'm sorry, I'm giving you crypto and you're giving me 50% out of it fiat as a loan. Where's my money?
Your money is safe either in a cold storage with BitGo,
okay,
or it's lent out to group of funds, hedge funds and various funds that we work with throughout the world, funds that are going through a very, very diligent process before they are accepted. And when we lend your coins to those funds, they usually, in 95% of the cases, give us collateral against those coins. So if they run out, we know how to get the coins back to you.
Okay, it's a good answer. Do you believe that your money is safe when you put it in a loan platform? I see some yes, I see some no. Okay.
Do you believe your money is safe when it's in the bank?
No, come on, it is.
I rest my case.
Until the government takes it. Anyway, Stani, do you do the same? When I give you money, when I give you crypto, when you give me back fiat, where's my money?
So basically, we do in a way that your funds will go to a smart contract, and we don't have any custody. That's basically the whole non-custodial principle of one of the principles of DeFi, that basically we don't take any custody of your assets. You're interacting with smart contracts, pre-programmed code that basically can be changed, or it's very difficult to change. So we don't have any keys or backdoors to your funds, and that's the beauty of DeFi.
Okay, and that's, like I said, I mean...
So who's the counterpart? Can you expand on that a bit?
You don't have a lending business yet. How is it possible, Yoni? You're taking fees from us in eToro. You're taking fees on the centralized exchange that you call a DEX.
I came to learn.
How come you don't have a lending platform?
I can teach.
So who's on the other side? Who's on the other side of the smart contract?
So that's a good question. So the smart contract is just a way to secure a transaction. The other side would be another peer. So if you are a borrower and you want to borrow funds against your collateral, there would be another counterparty which would deposit funds into the smart contract, which in our case, because we are dealing with DeFi, that will be stable coins. So in essence, the smart contract is actually holding the borrower's collateral, and if you're a lender, that's basically a way to make sure that the borrower doesn't run, and that's also why we call it non-financial inclusion.
Sorry, no, I didn't give you the briefing that there's like 4 Israelis in the panel, and we all tend to just get into each other's
That's
words.
not correct.
Yeah, no, it is on my panels. So so I gave you the benefit of doubt, and I didn't interrupt, but I'm going to interrupt you guys constantly because you need to keep your answers short. We've already lost like 50% of the people, and we only have, and 25% are now Celsius employees. So let's
they're all girls.
keep it short answers. I don't know if this was a Me Too answer or not, so I'm going to disregard it. So Yoni, Dexes, you just launched an exchange, eToro X. I'll give it to you. It's probably your most amazing product to date. It's really good. Not enough liquidity yet, that's to be honest, but it's good. But most DEX owners are trying to get rid of them. Stellar sold their DEX. The guys from Ether Delta, obviously after they got a fine, moved it to Chinese hands. Now God knows what's happening with that DEX. And some say that there is no real such thing as a DEX, because eventually it's just someone with a computer program. What's going to happen to them? Seriously.
So first of all, we made this decision. For us, it's a strategic decision to build basically a centralized order matching engine for eToro. So we have over 2,000 assets today trading on eToro. We're expanding that to 20,000, so whether it's stocks, commodities, indices, regular currencies. And from our point of view, everything is going to be eventually tokenized. And when I say that, I just mean a very simple feature that I think is a must for any financial asset in the world, which is send, receive. That's like, I really think every financial asset in the world should have that simple API, send, receive. I can hold it on my own, I can send it everywhere. I think, once you have that feature, every financial asset should have it. And so we said, let's build an exchange for tokenized assets and issuance platform.
My question, what's going to happen to DEXs? Are you going to buy a DEX?
So there's a user experience problem with DEXs that they simply don't work well enough today. The real advantage of DEXs was the theory that they're unregulated, and that theory completely collapsed when the SEC basically, I think it was sued or etc. Ether Delta, and because of that, I think because I was a happy user of Ether Delta when it constantly was the only place where there was liquidity for a lot of small tokens. But if you say that decentralized exchange has to have full KYC, which is what we're seeing right now, and then needs to block or unblock people from certain countries based on that KYC because they're security tokens, it loses the purpose of that DEX. That doesn't mean that you can't use a blockchain to run some kind of exchange.
You can do anything with a blockchain. It's just like Udi said, we don't really need it. No, I'm kidding. Tomer, you're part of the three-person team who were genius enough to buy the domain LibraCamp when Facebook announced Libra. How does it feel?
Actually, we thought about the whole idea of accelerating ecosystem and startups in a virtual platform before we announced LibraCamp.
Okay.
The people who know a little bit my activity before, I made a lot of hackathons and bootcamp and community-related stuff for the blockchain and Bitcoin ecosystem. And then half a year ago, we had an idea, me and my co-founder, Alon Shavit, had an idea how to take all this ecosystem growing and the hackathon acceleration into the virtual space.
Okay, but wait, it was your fault that this was called financial inclusion. So with your Libra camp, that is, you know, it's a good buzzword. I'm not sure if in Israel the camp thing is still works, but if Libra camp, are you going to do anything related to financial inclusion? Because I talked to people from Facebook about financial inclusion, and someone told me, you know, we were talking about it while having octopus in a restaurant, and we got to the conclusion we don't really know what financial inclusion is yet.
Yeah, so they maybe don't know, but I guess like most important things they can do is like focus on the infrastructure and regulation and push it forward. And what we are doing in LibraCamp is we try to figure out what is the best use cases, and we work with team from many different countries. From Indonesia, we have also team from Africa, and we talk to them, we talk to user and try to figure out what should be built. And
you're actually doing financial inclusion.
we're trying to figure it out. We not say we are defining what is financial inclusion, but we want to use the Libra as alternative financial infrastructure in order to connect people from third world countries.
Fair enough.
Look, and I get your point, but I think that
When did you give a loan to someone who didn't have money already? Because you need to put crypto first.
So 1 second, before I answer that, I think that it appears that you're making this logical connection between the only way to bring economic equality to the world is if I'm poor. I disagree. I think that when you look at a company like Facebook with 2+ billion users out there, if there's one company that can actually do something like this, just create some form of equilibrium, especially in unbanked countries. Facebook is best positioned, and I don't think just because Zuckerberg has his own plane, it means that, oh, you know, he's not going to do a good job bringing some form of equality, or at least better opportunities. To answer your question, as far as giving loans, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be married to the woman who actually run the lending business, and I asked her last night, I said, you know, how many loans have we given? She's like, 400 something. And I said, what's the median? The median loan's $9,000. So we're not here to make the rich richer. We're not here to enable people to borrow cheaply when they can actually go to Wall Street and do that. Our whole premise of the business, which has been built from the ground up, yes, through an ICO, is to empower the community to provide them with equitable and transparent financial services. And when you look at our users, we didn't take money from VCs. Most of our users, I'm talking about 90% and above, are people like you and I.
People who got hit by crypto. So, Yoni, you weren't hit by crypto, and you're running a project called Good Dollar. For those of you who don't know, Good Dollar is actually a very good project that is working on universal basic income. And I've read your article that stated your first ideas about Good Dollar back in 2008. It's now 2019, Yoni. Where's my universal basic income?
So when I wrote about it, and when I talked, first of all, when I talked about it with anyone until 2017, like after 2 minutes, they're like, oh no, Yoni's blah, 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 and the conversation ended, right? Let's build a global cryptocurrency to give it away to all people. Every person in the world gets $1 good a day. You couldn't communicate with people around that before 2017. So I was super happy when crypto rally happened that this entire movement started thinking, wow, people can actually redefine money again. We can reinvent money again. It's not taboo to talk about the reinvention of money, maybe as something better. Second, and that's something that a lot of people, I think, miss when they talk about Bitcoin. If Bitcoin now rallies to $200,000, I think people who are connected to the Bitcoin industry in a lot of countries, they'll need to walk around with bodyguards, and it's going to get very dangerous. So if the fiat economy collapses into Bitcoin and Bitcoin starts rallying up, the inequality in the world actually became much, much worse.
Stani, I want to give this to you. you know what? Let me do something else. You're from a loan platform. You're from a loan platform. We have a small pool with some mud here. No, I'm kidding. Stani, can you ask him a question you want to know?
Any question?
Well, you know, putting private things aside. Any question?
Well, yeah, I mean, one way you said that basically you collected funds from people like us, but do you think you will still find VC funds attractive for the future of Celsius?
Look, I don't know about, it's hard for me to predict the future. I think that for me and for us to continue to do what we do and act in the best interest of the community, we would like to continue to raise funding to grow the business from the community. One thing that we're in the process of doing is doing Reg A today in the United States, right? Instead of going and raise money from VCs at decent valuation, we would like to give the Joe Schmo from Nebraska the opportunity to invest in Celsius.
Now that I got your guard down, I want to ask you another question. So, in one way, you lend funds to basically hedge funds, and some of these hedge funds basically go short on the assets that they're borrowing, which might be unlimited risk. Do you think this risk should be kind of like communicated more better to the person that deposits into your system, or what is your stance?
I could care less what they do with the coins. As long as I have collateral to back those coins.
But if it's under collateralized?
Wait, that's three questions, and we had the one question rule, but I love it that you're becoming Israeli. So, Daniel, a rebuttal, please.
Simple question. How do you scale your business? And I'll put it in the following context. There was this great idea called Lending Club. No, 1 second. So Lending Club was this peer-to-peer, let's allow people to borrow and lend from one another. Liquidity for Lending Club was supposed to come from the people. 90% of it is coming from Wall Street. You know why? Because they could not scale that business. So with that in mind, how are you going to scale yours?
Well, the very same way you guys are doing. I'm approaching Wall Street. I mean, if you think about DeFi, it's basically a network of smart contracts. And as we heard earlier, basically, once there's different assets tokenized, and these protocols become very big. I mean, Compound went from 0 to 100 million recently. And I think the growth will continue. I mean, DeFi is growing 500% a year at the moment.
Yeah, but some will say that it's all the same money moving from Compound to, you know, to DAI and back.
You can only lock asset one place.
But I think that's an interesting myth. So just to continue on that, I think if you look at the two businesses, it's very similar businesses, right? They provide the same utility to the client, which is a great utility, fixed income. You said we'll make it simpler because we can get to hedge funds. So instead of matching that liquidity gap, we'll go to hedge funds who actually are willing to aggregate that. We'll do it off-chain. We won't use DeFi to do that. It's less transparent, but much easier to scale. And you said we want everything transparent, but then the problem is you don't necessarily have that counterpart because the Wall Street hedge fund says, I know how to close deals when people take me to dinner. I don't know how to use a smart contract.
You're absolutely right. Look, I think
so DeFi has a scaling problem because
but no one cares about transparency.
No, the users care about transparency, but the other part, the counterpart, who are financial institutions, they actually care about anti-transparency.
If
but
users cared about transparency, and this is the biggest myth in DeFi, if they cared about transparency, they wouldn't use the banks in the first place, or they would be running to DeFi.
Exactly.
And they're not running to DeFi, and that's the greatest myth of all. But Tomer, now if you could ask Yoni a question, and it's not about why did he look like this when he was young, and now, by the way, looking like a hodl model. But another question, please.
So what is your major goal with Good Dollar for the next 3 years?
So first of all, when we think about the Good Dollar, when we started it in eToro, I said this is a 30-year project. Like I really, there's a chance that it will take more than 3 years to do what we want to do.
It's a great way to take money from investors.
And by the way, this is purely so non-profit, real non-profit, not like crypto non-profit, real non-profit. This is a social impact project that we're sponsoring. We're just spending money to do something that we believe can do good. That do good is trying to build a financial ecosystem where every person, it's a mobile app on a blockchain that every day you can collect $1 good a day. And the theory around it is if 1 billion people used it and every one of them collected $1 good a day and started transacting with one another, then the same way people calculate the value, the market cap of a token, they can generate, if you sell things for good dollars, you actually create value for good dollars. So if people start transacting with it, they create actual value for good dollars. And I think, again, the idea here is it's social mining. So every person can collect $1 good a day, every day. If people actually generate value into the network and people sell goods and services for good dollars, then it's a great way for people to actually print their own money in a very fluid of value network.
Yoni, what myth do you want to debunk in DeFi? What do you think everyone thinks about DeFi that's actually wrong?
I think that the biggest problem is that people who deal with finance today are financial institutions, and their path into DeFi is almost it's very hard. It's almost an impossible gap. But if you think about who does finance today, financial institutions by definition. So all the money in the world, basically, or most of it, is controlled by people who really, one, don't want this to happen, second, won't try to make it work. And I think that's who does financial transactions, mostly financial institutions. Who does complex financial transactions? I do a lot of them, but because I run eToro, and in eToro we have a lot of complex financial transactions with a lot of financial institutions. So
You're part of the problem.
Or the solution. No, I think my issue with DeFi is that we're looking at it in absolute terms instead of a spectrum, right? And I think the biggest mistake is that we're going to make the perfect the enemy of the good, or confuse means versus an end. The end is not DeFi. DeFi is the means to the end, and the end is financial equality. I hear way too much talk about technology, and it's not decentralized enough. It's not decentralized enough. Do you want that the next conference will be even smaller? Continue to talk about tech.
We can't have this any smaller, I think. So, Tomer, I want to give you some more mic time because you're paying for this. What do you think that's happening on DeFi right now, a myth that you think everyone thinks is true, but it's not?
Yeah, I think we kind of talk about it, is like trying to say that people from development countries and third world countries need DeFi in terms of the transparency. So they are more about accessibility. Those people are in a real problem, and they less care about how much the system itself is transparent. They just want to participate in the financial system. So I think the thing of transparency is more like in already developed country, that people already like they are part of the financial system, but now they want better right and to be anonymous. So basically this.
So another one of the last myths is that lending platforms are printing money, because it looks like if you look at the status of Dapps, then you see status of DeFi, you see that a lot of the money is locked in lending platforms. Hence, you guys probably making tons of money, and that's why you have amazing socks. So, are you making tons of money, and did you fly business to Israel?
it's all transparent, by the way. In theory, we can actually look at the smart contract and know exactly how much money you're making, right?
But we
Yeah,
don't.
that's
I'm
the
trying
transparency.
So how much
I
money?
know
No,
how much
so
money he's
force him
making.
to tell you exactly how
No,
much.
I looked at the smart contract. I want to know how much he's making because it's not decentralized.
Once he
But I'm
says it,
starting
he
to.
will say it, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm doing, Yoni. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So yes.
Well, the socks were free. I got them in Denver. Yeah, yeah. Didn't fly business. I never fly. I was once upgraded to business class. Yeah, it was fun. But in terms of making money, I think we're not there yet to make actually money. We're there now to build stuff. I think it really, like the one thing, like one very big myth in the kind of DeFi space is that it's kind of like there will be one project that basically starts to get the whole DeFi ecosystem to grow, but it grows as an actually ecosystem. So when there's projects like, for example, MakerDAO, DAI, for example, Compound or lending pools, and Kyber and bunch of other protocols, this is kind of thing that is called money Legos, which means that people are building on top of different protocols and creating new products. And I think even the question about financial inclusion, there is actually financial inclusion if you think about it, because once you print DAI, which is basically a stable coin, and you take that DAI and export it to countries like Argentina, where the currency plummets, you actually have a pretty interesting financial inclusion aspect there, because you have a stable currency, which is better than the national currency, and also you have a cryptographic wallet as well. So there is still a aspect of financial inclusion, and it's not maybe the like primary product of the DeFi, such as, for example, creating loans or printing the stable coin itself. But back to the question of the making money, I don't think we're there yet, but I think at some point the whole DeFi ecosystem will spin more and its scale. And I think the scalability, when people say that it doesn't scale, but I think it's very interesting, because in one way, what smart contract based kind of like products or protocols do is that you can just plug in without anyone knowing that you're actually developing. I think there is now more developers in developing on one lending protocol in Ethereum than in basically in Tron and Tezos and all the other like blockchains out there with smart contracts. So it's huge.
Daniel, we're hoping you're making tons of money.
And I'm a token holder, so I think transparency is
Yes, so transparency is in place. I was looking at your Reddit account yesterday. It's not an account, sorry, on your Reddit thread, basically, and people were asking, "Where's my money, bitch?" Sorry, so.
We already answered the where's the money question. But
Yes,
let me
you're
tell you,
right.
let's answer the question of how much money we're making.
how much assets.
You don't
are
have to
on
say
lending?
exactly, obviously, not to
No,
the
no, no, no,
cent,
is it
but
o-
just
Is it
to the
open?
dollar.
Just really,
Yeah, yeah. It's all transparent. If you
it's all
download the app,
that's why I'm asking. So
if you download the app, and unfortunately in Israel the app is not available due to regulation, but if you download the
Can you
app,
talk closer?
if you download the app, you'll be able to click the community page and see a very transparent page that shows everything that's happening with our system. How much money we have on hold, how much money is lending out, how much interest we've been earning, how much interest we've been paying the community, and so on and so forth. But to answer your question about how much money we're making, not enough. You know why? Because 80% of our revenues go back to the community. Okay, and that's the difference between us and all these other financial institutions. We could have made much more. I could have flown here. I've got 4 discs problems. I could have flown here in business, but I'm not, because I would like our community to make more money out there. than
We're
us.
gonna make an ICO to fly crypto people
Thank you
business.
very
but
much.
but-
how much is, just to understand a bit the business KPIs? Give us what's on the app, because I can download the app.
So we've got $400 million under management currently.
Wow.
Close to 400 million.
So
and that generates how much revenues for the in general on a monthly basis?
The community, it's generating north of $500,000 a month.
So this is the due diligence panel by Yoni Asya. I think
We're
I
not
think
raising money.
So it's like $6 to $10 million revenue a year. It's,
You
a,
c-
it's
you
a good business.
it's a good business. Daniel, you can say you're not for sale. It turns them on even more. So okay, just to wrap this up a bit, because I don't think we have a lot more time. Daniel, I'm back to you, because you need to ask Thomas something about Libra, because I know you think Libra is not going to happen, and he basically put his name on it.
Will Libra happen?
So actually, we don't deal so much with this question. We deal with building. So our first camp.
So
is-
you're basically saying we
We help to startups build right now on top of the Libra testnet, and could be in the next batch of Libra Camp, still in the Libra testnet, but we are in the financial inclusion field and financial use cases, and we saw a huge interest from the community about what's going on in Libra, and thought it could be a great idea to focus in terms of technology aspect in the first bootcamp about the potential of this network.
I definitely think Libra is going to happen. And the reason is Mark Zuckerberg seems to want it to happen. So I think there's
Is Mark Zuckerberg God now?
No.
Do you think Congress is just
You mean
gonna let
Easy
it-
Vitalik?
let him
Not
ex-
yet.
I think it's going to be, again, he's launching a technological platform. The structure there doesn't seem significantly different than other stable coins.
This is not about
and
the
other
technology.
people.
And
but
it's
oth-
also
no,
not a panel about
but
Libra.
other people have
So-
launched. How many stable coins are there? There are already a lot of stable coins. So
You
people
just got
will not
30
be able
stable
to
coins
launch
out.
something like
This
this
panel is
without
getting
government
out of
approval.
hand,
No, no,
Daniel.
So people proved that you're able, that there is regulatory infrastructure to launch stable coins.
It's like Yoni
There
always
is
wins.
regulatory infrastructure to launch blockchains.
Just can't stop him.
He picked.
But I
from
think I don't
bo-
think
bo-
there is
bo-
enough
fro-
stable
fro-
coins.
Congress
I
thinks
think there could be
differently.
more.
That's your problem.
Full Israeli. Okay, gentlemen, this was a great panel. I enjoyed having fun with you on stage. We all believe in DeFi, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So hopefully next session we'll have more people believing in DeFi. So thank you everyone, and thank you for
Thank you
participating.
very much.